I never thought of myself as the kind of woman who would betray her husband. In fact, if someone had told me a year ago that I would be standing at the edge of an unforgivable mistake, I would have laughed in their face. But life has a strange way of pushing you toward decisions you never imagined making. My name is Emily Carter, and I have been married to Daniel for 5 beautiful years. He is the kind of man most women pray for, kind, hard-working, and fiercely loyal. He loves me in ways that sometimes make my heart ache with guilt. Even before I had a reason to feel this way, our life together was comfortable, simple. We weren't rich, but we weren't struggling either. Daniel worked as a financial consultant, and I was climbing the corporate ladder at Brookline. And Hayes, a well-respected marketing firm, my job was demanding. But I loved it, or at least I thought I did. Then came the promotion. A senior executive position had opened up, and I was one of the top candidates. Getting this role meant a higher salary, more influence, and a better future. It meant Daniel and I could finally buy that house we always talked about, the one with the big backyard for future kids. It meant no more worrying about unexpected expenses. No more feeling like I had to prove myself over and over again. I worked hard for this, late nights, early mornings, endless hours perfecting campaigns. I deserved it. But so did a handful of other people. And that's where Richard Wallace came in. Richard was my boss, the senior director of the company. He was powerful, respected, and intimidating. His presence alone made people sit up straight or speak more carefully. His reputation, ruthless but fair, a man who rewarded those who proved their worth. He was also my husband's former college mate, not a close friend. But they had history. I knew this because Daniel had mentioned him a few times. Nothing major, just casual stories about how Richard had always been ambitious, always chasing success like a starving man chasing a meal. I never thought much of it. Not until the day he called me into his office. "Emily, you're an asset to this company, you know that, right?" His voice was smooth, measured. He leaned back in his chair, his sharp eyes watching me. Like he already knew how this conversation would go. I nodded, my heart pounding. "Thank you, sir, I try my best," he smiled. But there was something behind it, something unreadable. "The board is reviewing the candidates for the senior executive role. Your name is on the shortlist. You're talented, hard-working, and capable. But you're also competing against people just as hungry as you, people who are willing to do whatever it takes." My stomach tightened. "Whatever it takes." I forced a polite smile. "I understand. I'll keep working hard to prove I deserve the position." Richard tilted his head slightly, amused. "That's the thing, Emily, sometimes hard work isn't enough. Sometimes opportunity comes in different forms." I knew then what he was saying, but I couldn't believe it. I sat frozen in my chair, my breath catching in my throat. Was I imagining this? Was I misreading him? He didn't look away. He didn't need to say the words. The message was clear: a night, one night, and in return, the promotion would be mine. The air in the office felt heavy. My mind screamed no. But another voice, quieter, yet persistent, whispered, "Think about it. Think about what this could mean for you, for Daniel, for your future." I stood up abruptly, my hands shaking slightly. I should go. Richard didn't stop me. He only nodded, a knowing look in his eyes. "Think about it, Emily. You know where to find me." I walked out of his office, my legs weak beneath me. I felt disgusted, angry. How dare he? How could he assume I would even consider such a thing? But the anger didn't last long, because beneath it, something else started to creep. In doubt, what if I said no and someone else said yes? What if my hard work was ignored because someone else was willing to pay the price I wasn't? I wanted to believe the company would choose fairly, that talent and dedication would win, but I'd seen too much to be naive. I had seen men with half my skill get ahead because they knew the right people. I had seen women left behind because they refused to play the game. I went home that night, feeling like I was being split in two. Daniel greeted me at the door, pressing a soft kiss to my forehead. "You look tired, long day." I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced a smile. "Yeah, just a lot on my mind." He pulled me into a warm embrace, his arms safe and familiar. I didn't deserve this kind of love. As we ate dinner, he talked about his day, about a new project he was working on, about how much he admired my ambition. "You're going to get that promotion, babe. I just know it. You've worked so hard for this." I nodded, forcing down the overwhelming wave of guilt. I'd worked hard, but was it enough? That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Richard's words looping in my head. Sometimes hard work isn't enough. I hated how much truth there was in that, and for the first time I considered what it would mean. To say yes to cross the line, to make a choice in the dark I didn't say yes, not immediately for days I pretended life was normal. I went to work, sat through meetings, answered emails, and smiled when people spoke to me. I came home, kissed my husband, cooked dinner, and made love to him like nothing was wrong. But inside I was drowning the thought of what Richard had proposed. Clung to me like a second skin. It wasn't just the offer. It was the possibility. Would I really lose the promotion if I said no? Or was this just a test to see how desperate I was, and if I did it, if I crossed the line, could I live with myself afterward? I wanted to believe I was stronger than this, that I was the kind of woman who would never sell herself for success. But the truth was, I'd never been this hungry before. I needed this promotion. Not just for me, but for Daniel. We had spent years saving, sacrificing, waiting, always waiting for the right time to move forward. This promotion would change everything, and what was one night just once one mistake that no one would ever know about? The first time I thought about it like that, I felt sick the second time. It didn't feel as bad the third time. It felt like a solution work became unbearable. I could feel Richard watching me, waiting for my answer. He never mentioned it again, not directly, but every time I passed his office, his door was open an invitation, and the competition for the promotion was getting fiercer. People were whispering, in corners forming alliances. I overheard a conversation between two colleagues, Mark and Vivian, both top contenders. She's good, but she's not aggressive enough. Mark muttered she doesn't have the right connections. Vivian agreed Richard respects her, but I don't think she has what it takes to secure the position. I stood around the corner, my fist clenched. They were right. I had no powerful friends, no inside connections. I had only my work ethic, and that wasn't enough in a world where favours and secrets decided careers. The doubt started eating at me like a disease. What if I lost? What if I let my morals guide me, only to watch someone else take the job I had fought so hard for? I started sleeping less, lying awake at night, while Daniel snored softly beside me, his arm draped across my waist. I felt like a fraud. A good wife wouldn't even consider this, but a good wife also wouldn't let her husband struggle while she had the chance to fix everything. A week later, I found myself in front of Richard's office. I wasn't sure how I got there. One moment, I was walking to the break room, and the next I was staring at his nameplate, my heart pounding in my ears. I could still walk away. I could still say no, but my hands were already pushing. The door open. Richard glanced up from his desk. His expression unreadable. He didn't look surprised. I closed the door behind me, my throat dry. I've thought about what you said. I hated how weak I sounded, how small. He leaned back, folding, his hands across his chest, and my stomach twisted. I wanted to scream to tell him. He was disgusting, that I would never sell myself like this instead. I whispered, "Okay." His lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. Good choice. And just like that, the decision was made. I left his office feeling like a different person, like I had just signed a deal with the devil. I told myself it was just stone time. It wouldn't change me. It wouldn't define me. I would do it, take the promotion, and never speak of it again. But as I sat across from Daniel at dinner that night, watching him smile, Ash told me about his day, I realised something terrifying. I had already changed, and I hadn't even done it yet. The night came faster than I expected one. Moment. I was convincing myself that I still had time to change my mind, that I could find a way out of this and the next. I was standing in front of a hotel room door, my pulse hammering in my ears. I could still walk away. I could still say no, but I didn't. I knocked, and Richard Wallace opened the door. I had never felt this kind of fear before, not the kind that made you want to run, the kind that made you freeze, that made you realise in the seconds before everything changed, that you were about to do something you could never take back. Richard's eyes flicked over me. His expression calm, unreadable. I had worn a simple black dress, not too revealing, not too formal. I had told myself I wanted to keep this as detached as possible. He stepped aside, letting me in without a word. The hotel room was luxurious, but impersonal, warm lighting, crisp sheets, a single bottle of wine chilling on the table. It was clear he had done this. Before I wasn't special. This wasn't unique. It was just another deal. I wrapped my arms around myself, my stomach twisting. I don't know if I can do this. Richard sighed, pouring himself a drink. You're overthinking it, Emily. You made your choice, you're here. It's just one night, then it's done. I stared at him, wanting to find disgust, anger, something that would make me leave, but all I saw was certainty, and I hated that he was right. I had already lost the battle the moment I stepped through the door, the details of that night still. Feel blurry even now. Not because I was drunk, I hadn't touched the wine, but because my mind disconnected the entire experience, felt like it was happening to someone else, like I was floating above my own body, watching a woman who looked like me but wasn't. Me, it was cold, mechanical, transactional. Richard didn't kiss me, he didn't whisper sweet nothings or try to make it feel like anything other than what it was, a trade. A deal sealed between two people who both knew exactly what they were doing. It was over, quickly, and when it was done, I lay on my side, staring at the ceiling, my body motionless. I felt empty. Not sad, not guilty, just hollow. Richard sat up, pulling on his shirt, already moving on. He wanted to hate him. But the truth was, I hated myself more. The promotion is yours, she said casually, buttoning his sleeves. You'll get the official announcement by next week. Congratulations. I closed my eyes. The words should have made me happy, they didn't. I got up, gathered my things, and left without another word. The drive home was the longest of my life. Every streetlight, every passing car, every normal person living their normal life felt like a cruel joke. How could the world look the same when I felt so different? I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. I wanted to scream. I wanted to take it back, but I couldn't when I reached our apartment. He sat in the car for a long time, just breathing. How could I walk in there and look Daniel in the eyes? How could I let him hold me, kiss me, love me when I had just been in another man's bed? I should have left. I should have told him everything. But instead, I stepped out of the car, locked the door, and walked inside like nothing had happened. Daniel was waiting for me. He was stretched out on the couch, his laptop on his lap, a small smile playing at his lips when he saw me. Hey, baby, you're home late. I swallowed, the bile rising in my throat. Yeah, long day. He closed his laptop, sitting up. Come here, you look exhausted. I hesitated for half a second, too long, but then forced my legs to move, sitting beside him. He wrapped his arms around me, pulling me into his chest, pressing a soft kiss to my hair. I nearly broke. The weight of what I had done crashed over me like a tidal wave, suffocating. Merciless. I wanted to tell him. I wanted him to hate me, to scream at me, to leave me so I wouldn't have to carry this alone, but I said nothing instead. I curled into him, let him hold me, let him tell me how proud he was of me, and I cried silent, broken tears because I knew in that moment that I'd lost something I could never get back, and the worst part, he would never know. It's been 6 months. Since that night, 6 months since I stepped into that hotel room and did something I can never take back. 6 months since I traded a piece of myself for a promotion that now feels like a curse, and Daniel still has no idea. The official promotion announcement came a week after the deal was sealed. There was a company-wide email, a small celebration in the office, and a dozen congratulations from colleagues who believed I had earned it through hard work and dedication. I smiled, shook hands, and accepted their praise like I deserved it. But inside, I was rotting every time. Someone told me I had worked so hard for this. I wanted to scream every time. Daniel told me how proud he was. I felt like I was being crushed under the weight of my own betrayal. I kept waiting for the guilt to fade, for the memory to soften, to feel like something that had happened to someone else, but it never did. If anything, it grew, it followed. Like a shadow creeping into every quiet moment, poisoning every happy one. It haunted me, and the worst part, Richard never changed. I expected things to be different between Richard and me. After that night, I thought he would hold it over me, or at least act differently. But he didn't. He treated me exactly the same, like nothing had happened, like I was just another employee, another person in his orbit. He never hinted at what we had done, never mentioned it, and somehow that was worse because it meant I had meant nothing to him. I wasn't special, I wasn't unforgettable. I was just another transaction, And for all my guilt, my shame, my self-hatred, I had given up everything for something that barely mattered to him. There were moments when the fear almost consumed me. What if he told someone? What if it slipped out in a careless conversation? What if someone found out every time Daniel mentioned Richard in passing, just a casual, meaningless mention of that guy? From college, my heart would stop. Would Richard ever say something? Would he laugh about it over drinks with old friends, not realizing how one sentence could shatter my entire world? I lived in that constant fear, and yet I still pretended. I still kissed my husband, cooked him dinner planned for our future, like nothing was wrong, like I wasn't Aaliyah, like I wasn't the kind of woman as to judge. It's strange the way guilt works at first. I thought it would pass, that I could bury it, drown it in work, in routine, in the life Daniel and I had built. But guilt doesn't just go away, it festers. It grows, it finds new ways to remind you of what you've done. It's in the way Daniel looks at me with so much love and trust, completely unaware that I don't deserve. It's in the way he kisses me, his hands soft, his touch filled with devotion, while I silently wonder if he would still love me. If he knew the truth, it's in the nights. I wake up in a cold sweat, gasping for air, remembering Richard's hands on mere remembering the moment I became this person. It's in the way I hate myself now, because I can't take it back, because I can't undo it, because I made a choice, and now I have to. Live with it, Daniel will never know. I've told myself that 1,000 times, and I believe it, because will never tell him, not out of selfishness, not because I want to protect myself, but because I can't bear to see the pain in his eyes if he ever found out, because the truth wouldn't just hurt him. It would break him, and I can't do that to him, so I'll live with this. I'll carry the guilt alone, and maybe one day I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror and see something other than regret, but today is not that day, and I don't think it ever will be.